Things have quickly changed in the UFC women's bantamweight division, and to my surprise, more people are paying attention to it. Since January, the UFC has ramped up the bantamweight fight booking. They seem to be getting it sorted, but I do wonder what the other fighters think of it, and if all of this can hold together. Raquel Pennington is your UFC Women's Bantamweight champion. After she defeated Mayra, she called out Julianna Peña during her post-fight interview. I spoke with Rocky weeks after the fight, and she said ideally she'd like to fight Peña then Kayla, but was aware if Kayla performed, it was possible she would face Kayla first. But she was okay with it in the end. Rocky simply doesn't think it's fair for anyone to leapfrog the other fighters that are after the same thing, that have been in the trenches working for it. Pennington has stated she'd like to come back around September. I have said already why not put her at the Sphere to defend the title. That's a solid venue to add weight to the relaunch of the division in my opinion. Kayla Harrison went on Ariel Helwani's show and stated she had heard Raquel is injured. Ariel got beyond excited and fantasy booked on the spot, the same fight that he booked when he spoke with Julianna in New York.
Then you versus the winner of Mayra Bueno Silva and Raquel Pennington. Do you have any idea what I'm going to say?
Is it Honda?
I don't speak Portuguese.
The Venezuelan vixen Julianna Peña against the two-time Olympic gold medalist Kayla freaking Harrison.
All right, you made a promise to Peña and Pennington. Let that play out hopefully this summer. And you should not fight before getting a title shot. And then hopefully this time next year, you're likely fighting Amanda Nunes for the belt in what could be one of the biggest fights in women's MMA history. So what are you feeling? What are you feeling? You're feeling June 29th interim title fight, you versus Peña?
I like the sound of that. Do you?
I love it. Yes.
I like it.
I like it too.
Let's go!
Yeah! Wow. And you versus Peña would be some good shit talking leading up to it.
Julianna Peña, from what I can tell, is in a really rough spot. From injury to re-injury, seeing Raquel Pennington defeat Mayra Bueno Silva, witnessing the successful arrival of Kayla Harrison, defeating a fighter she has yet to face. I somewhat compare her sit out to Stipe's. I don't feel it was the most ideal strat. Now, of course, with injury, you don't have much of a choice, especially something like a rib, but I believe there was opportunity prior to it happening. Anyone in the division would have fought Julianna after her second fight with Amanda, and Julianna could have taken any of those fights. Off the top of my head, Holly Holm. But she could have won 2 or 3 fights throughout this time and not have been re-injured or injured to begin with, because everything would have played out differently. Or she could have lost against Holly or someone else and be out of contention. Who knows? But would it have been worth it? And I do understand it's so easy to look back and think, yes, she should have done X and Y. For this situation, for where the landscape currently stands, and how she handled her timeout, it is so difficult to ignore it. No matter what Julianna does next, the stakes are higher than ever for her. If Rocky is injured, then congratulations, you get fast-tracked to Kayla Harrison for an interim title. This would be almost definite if Rocky is out until the 4th quarter of this year or longer, I dread to say. Dude, I'm telling you right now, Kayla Harrison versus Julianna Peña is not going to be the hype that everyone thinks it will be. What I mean is, press conferences and sound bites will not be the same as when Peña was going at Amanda Nunes. The narrative for Peña will change because it has to. But what will it change into is the question. It won't be the same if and when Peña faces Pennington. I'm certain that Julianna is angling for a title fight right now, and I still believe it should be her and Rocky first. But is it time to give up on the Rocky Vixen fight? I feel like the Julianna that made a splash on The Ultimate Fighter is long gone. It doesn't feel like she has been replaced by a better version of herself either. The fact is, Julianna is coming up on 2 years off. Whomever she fights has been in the trenches fighting top 10 competition. including Kayla Harrison. I really dislike this situation. Peña rejected other fights and steady trashed Amanda, Mayra, and eventually Raquel. She is coming off a loss and expects to fight for the title next. She has yet to give a real interview outside of the ESPN one I covered in the past where she was in all white. Even live in New York with Ariel, where I praised her for being a bit more real, she still kept that WWE promo style intact. This is not going to be effective in a lead up for her next fight. Too much time has passed. The injuries went on for too long, and fans are quick to forget. Fans were happy to see anyone defeat Amanda Nunes for whatever reason, and Peña didn't capitalize on it in the right way. She could have approached her loss differently. Even if we do get Rocky and Peña next, I'm willing to bet that most fans won't invest much into it because they know Kayla is on the other side of that. Right now, she can no longer angle that her and Amanda completing a trilogy, or even her and Raquel is the biggest fight for the division. I have been wanting to see Julianna and Raquel fight for like 10 years now, but it may not be in the cards. This may not ever happen, and I can't believe I'm finally saying this. Kayla Harrison looks to become champion by the end of the year and is being quite reasonable about fighting Amanda Nunes. After her victory over Holly, she called out either Pennington or Peña, whomever would be champion. Overall, it feels like Pennington and Peña were promised the next fight for the Bantamweight title. If Raquel is injured, then I wouldn't be surprised to see a fast track to Kayla and Julianna for an interim belt. I'm very curious to know how Julianna would approach a fight like this, given the stakes of it and layout surrounding it. And again, if Pennington is injured, I do hope it's not an injury that causes her to vacate the title like Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill had to. If that's the case, the stakes for the fight would be much higher. But again, Julianna Peña would be coming off 2 years of rehabbing injuries and a loss. Harrison is clearly the disruptor the division was needing. She got Amanda Nunes hype enough to share her excitement online. Some media members and fans are saying just put Nunes Harrison now at either 145 or no title on the line.
Yeah, who say that?
Booking them at 145 for a belt, I believe, is more likely than just booking them without a title. No title on the line is not the way to go for that kind of fight, in my opinion. But Kayla is as pro as they come, and I think over the next 18 months, her weight will be in check outside of injury, illness, or side effects. Another way is if Raquel is indeed injured, they could skip Julianna and put Harrison Nunes up for an interim belt over the summer. But if Nunes were to win, she'd be waiting for Raquel and or defend an interim belt against Peña to complete the trilogy. Nunes and Pennington aren't really interested in fighting each other at this point. They are good friends, and Amanda has done it all except defeat Kayla Harrison, and I do believe that is what Amanda wants overall. Rocky only has Julianna, Kayla, Carol Hossa, and Norma Dumont in the top 10 that she hasn't faced already. When there were 4 opponents Israel Adesanya had not faced at middleweight, we were declaring that he cleaned out the division. Essentially, you could say the same thing for Raquel Pennington. If Rocky and Holly faced each other again today, who do you think would win? That's up to you. Perfect. So yes, she did beat them all except Holly. She's also defeated number 11 at the time of this writing, Penny Kianzad. She has already had an exchange with Kayla online as well. The hype of the division over the past 2 months has definitely gone up. What I find interesting is it has been happening with zero mention about Julianna Peña, or without a peep from the Vix herself. I really think Julianna needs a reboot to keep in this conversation. And I hope that's something that they're working on behind the scenes, because the promo talk is going to be a thing that does not work in this situation. As I said earlier, I see 5 options for her next fight, and none of them are an easy ask. They all carry heavy risk and none are Amanda Nunes. If Julianna wants Amanda, she has no way of getting to her without at least 2 more fights. One being for the belt and both of them being W's. I feel like if Rocky is good to go, then they book her for September and it will be Kayla that gets her. That would be in line to be at the Sphere for UFC Noche. This would be a big moment for both Raquel and Kayla, as well as the women's bantamweight division, and well deserved. If Rocky isn't good to go, then we may see Kayla and Julianna for an interim at the Sphere, and winner get Amanda or Raquel in New York in November, or end of year event. It's amazing how just one person added to the division can reveal so many interesting possible outcomes. I think we are all looking at a very good chance that Kayla's next fight is going to be involving a title, and everything else for the division gets built around it. Personally, I wouldn't count anybody out in these potential fights. People were mad that Amanda was around, now they can't wait for her to return. People simped for Julianna Peña and booed Rocky and Myra, then they turn around for Kayla Harrison. All good with me, because now the division is beginning to bubble and it's much needed. I feel like if Rocky and Julianna are good to go and the UFC books it, fans won't be into it because of the Kayla-Amanda thing going on. Also, would it be the best version of her, Julianna, mentally and physically, for a title fight after 2 years off with injury coming off a dominant loss? The reality is, though, out of the 4 of them, Julianna is the only one coming off a loss and has been out of competition longer than Amanda Nunes.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.